What is this? What is this? Ah. I did a video with all the best deals on the Supwell app. I guess there was a size 10.5. Yeah, this is my guy Serge Rivera had a size 10.5 on the Supwell app in the alphafly. I should see if he's interested in giving me those because I love the alphafly. This is Nike's best shoe by far, and their best. It's not just because it's $285 and expensive, and of course it's going to be the best shoe because it's expensive. No, this is their best training shoe too. I absolutely love this thing. It's great for training. It's great for pushing the pace. It's their best shoe by miles. Best at what it does, and it's the only shoe in their lineup that's one of the top shoes in the category. All of their other shoes compared to category leaders are just below average. But lacing up the alphafly here, we have the first tempo today at 2:30 marathon pace, so at 5:45 or faster. This is going to be a good one, getting back into it from Chicago. We are in Carbon County. We're now also, 4 weeks out? Almost, 3.5, 4 weeks after Chicago, but I gave myself some time to get back into it. If you look at my Strava, you can see the week after Chicago I didn't pull the mileage down that much even. I think I ran 70 miles, and the next week 80 miles, and last week 100 miles, and then this week we're going to cruise to another 100-mile week. But the intensity of those miles is a lot lower than what I was doing leading into Chicago. And so when we think about recovery and how to rebuild, it's not just about cutting mileage down, it's also about making sure we're running that mileage at the proper intensity. So for today's run, I'm going to aim for 12 miles with 4 at 2:30 marathon pace. Now, sometimes I run workouts by effort and I talk a lot about training by feel. Other times I train by pace. Now, what is the best time to train by effort versus train by pace? It's going to vary, but for me, when I'm doing race-specific workouts, race pace workouts, I always train by pace because on race day, no matter the conditions, no matter the weather, no matter if it's hilly or not, we want to run a certain pace. If we're training for a sub-4 marathon, we want to, gosh dang, run the 9:0, what is it for a 4-hour marathon? Is it exactly a 9? I think it's a 9:09 pace. If we're training for a sub-4 marathon, we want to be able to run that 9:09 pace, no matter if it's 72 degrees or 32 degrees. That's why I always train by pace for these race pace workouts. It prepares us to run that pace. I don't give a gosh dang about heart rate. There's one of these books, I think it's the Hanson's book, that said nobody ever crossed the finish line and said, on a marathon and said, I'm so glad I kept my heart rate at 156 beats per minute. So that's my philosophy about these race pace tempos. They prepare us to run race pace on race day. I have a whole video about that. I will link it below. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, man, this week there has been so much talk, and the Matt Choi thing sparked it about who's a real runner and who's doing this, who's doing that. I just had a few things I wanted to say about this. So if you look at my hat, it says hobby jogger. What does that mean? Well, a hobby jogger is somebody who runs for fun. It's somebody who chooses to run because it provides them some value, some joy, some fulfillment in this journey of life. I consider myself a hobby jogger. It's not about pace. It's not about what shoes we're wearing. It's not about our fueling strategy. It's not about how many miles we run per week. And I do run a lot of miles per week. It's about getting out here and lacing up the shoes. And there's this thread and this chatter, this noise that I've been hearing this week about people aren't real runners because they're not attempting to PR at a marathon major. People aren't real runners because they film this or do that. What the heck is a real runner? What the heck? You tell me, am I a real runner? I don't think so. I'm a hobby jogger. It's on the hat. So here's the thing, man. You could run 5 miles a week. You could run 0.5 miles a week. You could run 500 miles a week. You can have a 1-shoe rotation. You could have a 1,000-shoe rotation. I don't give a gosh dang. If you want to lace up a pair of running shoes or hiking boots or Jordan 3s and get out here and walk around or jog, or you want to participate in the communal aspect of this culture, then you're welcome here. That's what the hobby jogger lifestyle is about. And I'm out here putting up 100 miles a week. That doesn't mean you need to put up 100 miles a week to be a hobby jogger. Man, this attitude, man, you have to real runners PR at majors. You know what? The same people who say that were triggered when I was putting up sub 3 marathons in my neighborhood. I don't give a gosh dang about a marathon major. I'll bust down a 2:55 on a random Sunday. That's the hobby jogger lifestyle, man. It's all about getting out here, enjoying the mileage. This is the stuff that gets me fired up. And then one last thing I have to say. Stop saying my guy Aubrey is not a real runner. This is really triggering me, man. Because if he runs this pace or he does that. There's a place for everybody on YouTube. There's a place for everybody in the hobby jogger community. You know what? Aubrey's not a real runner. He's a hobby jogger. There's a lot of elitism in the running world. And it's moments like this, the Matt Choi thing just sparked all of the different threads to start coming out and giving people who think a certain way about what is allowed and not allowed in running a platform to be elitist. And what hobby jogger represents is the opposite of that. There's a place for everyone. This is getting me gosh dang fired up. This is the same reason why a lot of the stuff that you see happening right now on the news is happening, because people feel that there's not a place for them. So there's a place for everybody in the running world. I don't give a gosh dang about the running. People say running community this is a running community that. I'm not in the running community. I'm not in the running industry. I'm not an influencer. I'm not a content creator. I'm a gosh dang hobby jogger just putting up miles out here. And if you're inspired by getting better every day, then come join me. Now, you can run a marathon in a pair of $300 shoes. You can run a marathon in some shoes from 1987. Doesn't gosh dang matter. All right, let's go get some miles in. It's got me hot. Leave Aubrey alone. Hold on. My breakfast was actually horrible this morning, so I am going to fuel with a gel before this workout. We'll see if this can save me. This is the Morton 100. Man, you can fuel with Morton, you can fuel with dates, you can fuel with Gatorade, you can fuel with orange juice. It doesn't gosh dang matter. All right, I'm going to take this, then we can go. The only PR I care about is personal responsibility. Putting respect on the grind. Gosh dang about a PR at a marathon major. Man, this is the thing, when you get a community and it becomes so insular and everybody shares the same ideas, that's when it gets really dangerous. And there's a lot of gatekeeping in the running community. If you don't do things a certain way, you don't belong here. And man, let me tell you, the one media press thing that I've done, running warehouse trip, some of the attitudes that were there, of some of the people. I met this one person who is just so condescending to me, who said she was a running journalist and mentioned the name of this trail, and she said, "You don't know what that is? It's a pretty famous running trail." I said, "No, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that trail is. Sorry." Who cares? Who cares if you jog a marathon? Who cares if you know what the history of the Nike founders? That's not what my running enjoyment and experience is about. It's about putting the work in to get better. Man, you can run a 2:30 marathon, you can run a 6:30 marathon. As long as you're getting out here working on becoming a better version of yourself, you're cool with me. If you're trying to say what makes somebody valid or legit, that's not cool with me. It's the same attitude with the shoes, man. People try, and this is another thing I've been seeing. People minimize the shoes. There's this thread out here that shoe reviewing isn't legit. People for a long time thought I wasn't a legit runner because I was popping out with dozens of shoes. And then I put down a PR at a marathon major and they started to take me seriously. I hate that. I absolutely hate that. I hate that that's what's required in the running community to be taken seriously. It's not about PRs, man. It's not about majors. It's not about spending it. The whole attitude of marathon majors and putting them on a pedestal and making that the dream, the goal, that our entire journey of running has to lead into this experience of flying across the world and spending thousands of dollars. I hate that. You guys have heard me talk about the Boston Marathon. I don't like what it represents. Now I understand why they have the time cutoffs, and I understand for some people, if that's your goal to run a major, I'm not minimizing that. Everyone has different goals, but that doesn't mean that you're better or worse than somebody jogging a marathon major. That might not be their goal to PR. Your goal doesn't need to be their goal. My goal doesn't need to be your goal. And with the shoes, man, the thing I've seen is shoes don't matter. It's trivial. All these hobby joggers just have 30 carbon plated shoes and they're putting up X marathon time. Okay. First of all, are you running a 2:10 marathon? Are you running a 2:05 marathon? Probably not. Secondly, these shoes, they do matter because they create community, they create connection. It's a shared perspective, it's a shared experience that a lot of us have. And man, if you grew up in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, around basketball shoe culture or streetwear culture, which a lot of people who are watching this channel can connect to, running shoes, that's a new way to channel that and an entry point for a lot of people into running. And that's what gets missed in a lot of this conversation about real runners versus whatever. For some people, the shoes are a big motivator, and that's not to be minimized. Some people nerd out about heart rate and training systems. Other people nerd out about shoes. Not one is not better than the other. I happen to nerd out about both. The last thing I'll say here on this note, it doesn't make you superior to have a 30 shoe rotation, and it doesn't make you superior to have one shoe and take all your shoes to 800 miles. Everybody has a different approach, and everybody is welcome in my world. It's about getting after it. Man, I'm fired up today. Let's go.
This is the real runner versus influencer thing, man. Oh, they're just doing it for the content. Don't watch then. Don't watch. No one's forcing you to watch. You don't have to put somebody else down. They're getting after their goals. Doing it for the content. Good for them. Man, 10 miles a week, 100 miles a week. If you're chasing your dreams, living your goals, then awesome. That's the hobby jogger lifestyle, baby. I don't even have my hobby jogger hat today. I ran so much this week, they're all dirty. All right, that was mile 2. Time to lock into this tempo. 5:40 pace. Let's hit it. .2:30 marathon pace. Hobby jogger mode activated. First mile 5:47, second mile 5:43. This is what it's about, man. Coming out here, tearing the top off the road. Digging deep, locking in, and putting in the work. Not a real runner. Woo! Locked and loaded. I'm not a real runner. Somebody lied. Got a ratio on my foot. The alphafly. If I die today. Shout out to Rick Ross putting in work. Oh. So we went 5:47, 5:43, 5:34, 5:31. Last two were hot, but I was hot. So I gave it some gas. Man, the most dangerous thing in the world, more dangerous than a gun, a knife, any chemical spill, is when one group of people says, you have to act like us, you have to talk like us, think like us, look like us, train like us, do something like us to belong here. That's the most dangerous thing in the world. And that's what weaponizes the guns and the knives and the chemicals and all that. So man, all this real runner business, let's just cut it out. Man, this is the same type of energy. It's the same type of energy that makes me feel and makes some certain people feel like no matter what they do, they'll never be taken seriously, or they'll never belong. No matter if I run 100 miles a week or put up a 2:39 marathon, the running cognoscenti won't respect my opinions. No matter if we run 7 majors, people will still say we're not a real runner because we didn't hit a certain time. Just stop it, man. There's no such thing as a real runner. All right, so we took those miles right where we needed to, even faster on the end. And I'm gonna give myself about a year to hit this 2:30 marathon goal, but we gotta chip away at it as best we can. And I've shown over my last 2 cycles, I've been able to stretch my half marathon pace to marathon pace within about a year. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do right now. Just keep grinding these race pace tempos. Man, the leaf blowers. Hold on. Yeah, man, so what we gotta do, and I think leaf blowers have featured in every video this week. This is just the time of the year in the burbs. Leaf blowers are going off. But we gotta stretch 4 into 26. We gotta stretch 10 into 26. It's simple math. It's not complicated. We gotta keep the mileage up and grind out race pace tempos once every week or once every other week. Stay healthy, add in some other intensity, gradually build up the volume and amount of time that we can hold this 5:40 pace. That's it. That's the game plan. It's not about heart rate, it's not about threshold, it's about pace. Just locking into this pace, the 5:30 or 2:30 marathon pace, which is a 5:40 something pace, and just getting as many miles as possible. Building on our strong foundation. We've already run 4,000 miles this year, and leveling up again. Consistency. That's all it is. One more thing I'll say is, it is such a privilege for us to be out here stressing about PRs and race pace and aerobic base building and the difference between a curved carbon fiber plate and a spoon plate and all of that, and not stressing about where the money's gonna come from in February to make mortgage, or how we're gonna afford formula, or what we're gonna do to keep our kids safe, etc., etc. That's the hobby jogger lifestyle, man. It's a joy. It's a joy to have this pursuit. It's great as a way to improve our life and to add value. And if we want to give us an outlet to chase achievements like PRs and qualifying for majors. But that's certainly not a requirement of getting out here and putting the miles in. Back outside. And first tempo back, I guess second, because last week was the first. 12 miles, average 6:26 pace, 1 hour, 17 minutes, 36 seconds. For these tempos and for every workout, really, the average pace of the entire workout does not matter. It's only the average pace, or the pace for the target sections of work. So for the target sections of work today, it was a 2-mile warm-up into the 4 miles at 2:30 marathon pace, and we hit it exactly as we needed to, even a little faster. And the alphafly is putting in work. in the pink John G shorts. Check these out. Man, these don't miss. These don't miss. I don't think I've ever run a bad workout in these pink shorts. For race pace, we wear pink.
The new Payroll Giovanni mixtape, Hustle Music. I think Payroll Giovanni and Cardo, that's the most underrated rapper producer duo in modern music. Everyone knows about Alchemist and Boldy James and Derringer and Griselda and Larry June and Cardo, Larry June and Alchemist. What about Cardo and Payroll? Underrated. Anyway, let's talk about the workout, the shoes, and then I want to close it out with some final thoughts about this real runner business. So workout today, and man, it's a little dark, huh? Workout today, let's throw it up. We got 12 miles, average 6:26 pace. Again, average pace for these race pace workouts doesn't matter for the entire run. We're just looking at pace of that section where we're working. And so we went 5:47, 5:43, 5:34, and 5:31. So the average of that is 5:30 something. That is a little hot. That is too hot. And my philosophy is we run these race pace tempos at race pace. This is my first one back, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, that I could hold this 5 or 2:30 marathon pace. So I just went out there, let it rip, wasn't worried about holding it back. But typically, and especially as we get closer into a race like I did last time, I will pull myself back and I will run exactly at the pace. But more often than not, we're pushing ourselves forward to try to hit that pace. Man, let me tell you, those first 2 miles of that set there, so let's look at it, 5:47, 5:43. At least that's what my watch said. Sometimes the watch and Strava are 1 or 2 seconds different, but 5:47, 5:43, that was hurting. That was pain, that first mile too. So I do a 2-mile warm-up.
He's back. He said, who are you saying is not a real runner?
Yeah, he's just going ham again. Yeah, first 2 miles around a 5:40, 5:45 marathon pace or 5:45 pace, and I was pushing it pretty good. There's a huge hill on that first mile, so we do the 2-mile warm-up into the 3rd mile there, which is where I usually start my tempos. And that mile is tough because it goes straight downhill and then straight uphill. So you get the pounding, and then you got to climb a steep hill, you get a little bit of a downhill, and then it's about a half a mile or probably 0.35 to 0.43 of a mile, 40 hundredths of a mile straight uphill. So that's a great way to warm up into the tempo. Hit that at 5:47. My lower back was actually not killing me, but just sore and achy, and that's a way to tell that I'm really pushing it. And I'm looking forward to my rest week coming. It's not going to be next week, it's going to be the next week after, but this is what is required to get where we want to go. Again, running doesn't have to be this terrible, painful thing where we're digging deep into the pain cave and forcing ourselves to the limits of our extremes every week, but sometimes it does need to be this constant gnawing sensation of dull fatigue, and pushing through that is how we improve as marathoners. Now, again, not everybody wants to be a marathoner. Not everyone wants to run marathon PRs, and I don't think that running a marathon makes you any better of a runner than getting out and walking around the neighborhood for 15 miles and throwing some 2-minute jogs in there. But it's personally what is giving me the most fulfillment right now. Going out here, setting these goals for myself, seeing myself improve. I've mentioned this before, but I have a friend from college, Dimitri, and we were talking about running, and Dimitri said running is one of those areas in life where if you pour yourself into it, if you commit to being consistent and putting a solid effort in, you will progress. There's no secrets to it. And of course, we get up to a certain point. If we're running 5,000 miles every year for 10 years, we're going to hit a point where we stop progressing. But if we're doing the little things, doing the right things, pouring ourselves into it, it's one of those rare areas in life where there's very close to guaranteed progress. Now, there's no guarantees, there's only commitments, as I said, but if we commit ourselves to doing 3 runs a week, 4 runs a week, 5 runs a week, whatever is a little bit more than last time, whatever is going to get us new adaptations, then we're going to get where we need to go. And that's why I run these long runs, 23 miles, 24 miles. That's why I do marathons during training, 26 mile, 27 mile long runs leading up into Chicago and leading up into my Coast Guard marathon, because those are the adaptations that are going to help make me stronger as a runner. So this time around, it's not going to be to get to that 2:30 marathon pace. It's not going to be so much about long runs and consistent with the long runs, because I've done that. That was last time. And now I'm going to maintain that. I don't need to pop off and go 23, 24 as often as I did last time, because it's easier to maintain fitness than it is to build it. So I just need to maintain. I need to touch on that. If I do one 23-mile long run per month, I'll maintain that fitness. And the funny thing about getting faster is we actually need to have less endurance to run a faster marathon time. Because if you think about it, that's not saying we run shorter, but I need to only run for 2.5 hours now versus 3 hours if I was trying to go sub 3, or 2 hours and 45 minutes if I were trying to go sub 2:45. So if I can do what I did last weekend in the Zoom fly, I did 23 miles at a 7 flat pace. That takes me to, I think the run was exactly 2 hours and 40 minutes. If I do that once a month, once every 6 weeks, I will maintain that endurance. I don't need to be doing crazy 3-hour long runs. Now, they do help. It's not going to hurt to pop off and go 3 hours once in a while. It will, however, detract from some of our running performance. So that's why I've actually pushed this tempo all the way to Friday, because I did that 23 on Sunday. I did another workout on Tuesday. That was election day. I was in the Magic Speed and I ran to the polls to vote, and I was fatigued. I was tired. Yesterday I did a 17-mile day. I popped out in the Warren Buffett 17s, or the Warren Buffett 24s, and I ran a half marathon around the neighborhood here. And then I ran 4 more miles in the Glizzies, the Glacier and Max, in the afternoon. So I was coming off of 17 miles coming into the workout this morning. I didn't cut my mileage all the way down, and the day before that I did another double. So I've been keeping the mileage pretty consistent at 15, 16, 17 miles a day this week. It's not my preference, but came into this workout on tired legs. Let's throw it up again one more time, and I was able to execute. So here's the thing about race pace and how to appropriately set goals, and my thing is flopping around everywhere too. And the same people saying people aren't real runners this, real runners that, are the same ones who used to get mad that my watch was flopping around. I promise you guys, I'm not making this up. People would get so mad. Why is your watch band flopping? The same people saying someone's not a real runner. It's energy is all tied together. But goal setting and these race pace workouts. So setting a goal. I can wake up today having run a 2-hour 39-minute marathon in Chicago and say, I want to run a 2-hour and 17-minute marathon. Now, what's that marathon pace? Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly. It's probably 5:18. Let's call it a 5:20 marathon pace, or a 5:15 marathon pace. Now, if I tried to run a tempo at a 5:15 pace, I would last probably 1 mile, if that, right now in my current fitness in the middle of a 100-mile week. I could run that for 1 mile, 2 miles, maybe 3 miles on a good day. If I did everything properly and the conditions were right, maybe 3 miles. Maybe I could run a 5K at a 5:15 pace right now, or maybe I would flame out after 800 meters. Point being, I couldn't run a 4-mile race pace tempo. I couldn't run 5, 6, 7, 8 miles, and I certainly couldn't do that every week without having a huge risk of injury. So goal setting, we can go out there and say, hey, maybe eventually one day I want to run a marathon at 5:15 pace. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's my goal. Maybe it's your goal, maybe it's somebody else's goal. But right now, my goal is to get faster and to improve on that 2:39. And the next step is running 10 minutes faster, which I already did this year. I took 10 minutes off my marathon time from April to now, and I'm going to take 10 minutes off again from now to next year. And so that is a realistic goal, and I also know I can hang at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I could probably run an 8-mile tempo at a 5:40 something marathon pace right now if I set myself up for success, not running on tired legs all the time. And we will build up to that. So goals should be ambitious. It is also about the timeline, the time frame of these goals. I'm giving myself 1 year. 1 year. So last October, I ran a 1:19 half marathon. It was 1:19:28. And guess what I did this year, exactly 1 year later? That half marathon was something like October 19th or October 23rd, 2023. It was an Ironman relay. I just did the running part. Then Chicago was October 13th. So exactly 1 year later, 12 months later, I ran a 2:39 flat. That is doubling that half marathon time, extending it from 13.1 miles to 26.2 miles. That exact 6:04 pace took me 1 year. So let's just run it back. Let's do that same thing again, continually extend this. And that's why race pace tempos are such an important part of my training program. Mileage, consistent long runs, and race pace tempos. That's really all there is to it. And then we do some support activities around that, like running faster than race pace. And the benefit of running faster than race pace is it makes race pace feel easier and more efficient. It helps our mechanics feel locked in. For me, it helps me feel like the race pace is easier. So earlier this week, I did the Zoom Fly 6 versus the Magic Speed 4 workout, and I did 12 reps of 1 minute at 10K pace. Now, I was holding on to 520s and 530s for the first half, then I dropped to 530s, even some 540s for the back half, but a lot of those were around 530s, so slightly faster than the pace today, also in training shoes, not racing shoes, so the effort was a little bit more. Mechanics had to be sharper. And that means today, a few days later, my body is used to popping off the ground, snapping, even though I were only doing 1 minute sets earlier this week. And this morning I did, 5.5 minutes by 4, which turns out to be 20 something minutes, 24 minutes, 23 minutes of pace this morning. Just the mechanics were already locked in because we practiced it on Tuesday. Now, speaking of the Zoom Fly, transitioning here to the shoes. The reason I wanted to pull out the alphafly this morning is, well, this is my favorite shoe to run race pace workouts in. I think it's an awesome shoe. I don't think I'm ever gonna race in it just because when I went to Chicago, man, everyone was wearing the alphafly. Now, I have no problem having the same stuff as everyone. I have no problem with everyone buying the alphafly, but it's just one of those mental things for me personally. I don't want to show up on race day with the same shoes as everyone else. I just need to have that edge. It's a weird thing. So I'll probably never race. It's like, for example, the CEO of my company told me this story of his daughters on Halloween. His daughters and their friends, they're in middle school, they all dressed up as M&Ms, and they were taking the pictures and doing the TikToks and posting the Instagrams in their M&M costumes. And he goes to drop them off at the school dance, and all the teachers were also dressed up as M&Ms. I thought that's the funniest thing I heard this year. So this is the same thing with the alphafly. I'm not gonna pull up in the M&Ms while all the teachers are dressed in M&Ms. I just can't do that. I was passing hundreds of people wearing alphaflies at Chicago. But this is a great shoe. That is why so many people have it, and it tends to be most of the time. The shoes like what I ran in yesterday, Brooks Adrenaline GTS 24, the Brooks Glycerin. These shoes that people love and everyone has, usually most of the time are great. They're moving in numbers because they're great. So this is a great shoe. I have to say though, the Zoom Fly 6 or the Gloom Fly Bricks is nothing like this. The Zoom Fly is nothing like this. So if you're looking for a shoe that's like the alphafly, get the alphafly. Now I know there's $100 difference between this and the Zoom Fly. So, hey, pull up in the Beamer. She's not worried about $100 difference. Check eBay, check the Supwell app, check any second party or retailer, reseller, or if you can't afford it, just get the alphafly. This is up near 150 miles now, and it's still going strong, fairly durable shoe. So I would just suggest, if you want a shoe like the alphafly, get the alphafly. It's so much bouncier, so much more protective and cushioned in the forefoot. I really don't think that it's the same Zoom X here as in the Zoom Fly. And also, if you just look at the amount of foam above the pods here versus the amount of foam above the plate in the Zoom Fly, it's really different. There's so much more foam above here. This is so much more cushioned and protective, and overall an awesome shoe. So my favorite shoe to run race pace tempos in for sure. This is gonna still have a place in my rotation throughout this next training block, throughout this next year. Probably take it up to 200 miles, do a 200-mile update on it. I never even did a real 100-mile review on it. So shout out to the alphafly. Now, last thing I want to say here, I have to think about the right words. To close it out here, just wanted to say a few more words on some of these different threads of conversation that I've been seeing this week and that have been happening this week around what constitutes being a real runner, who's considered legit. Man, my take is everyone has different goals. Everyone's in it for a different reason, but running is great because it can bring us all together. And when we start drawing a line in the sand and saying, to be on this side, to be considered part of us, you have to do these things. You have to run hard at marathon majors to be part of us. You have to train a certain way to be part of us. Your heart rate has to stay in a certain level. You can't run more than 23 miles. You have to have your long run be 30% of your weekly mileage to train the right way and to be considered a real run. That gets dangerous. And it's not dangerous just within running. It's a dangerous line of thought that happens in a lot of places. And so running and the running world is what I think about a lot. So I will just address it here. The entire reason that this channel exists is to be an antidote to that, and to be a place where it doesn't gosh dang matter what the lactate threshold is or what pace you're running, because we're all in it to get some enjoyment, to get some benefit out of this beautiful pursuit of running. So whether you want to slaughter yourself over hills or whether you want to enjoy a walk in the park and video yourself doing it, if that's adding value to your life, that's a beautiful thing. And that's why I love running. So I don't want to focus on the negative so much, but it can get dangerous when we celebrate somebody's downfall. And that's what I've seen with the Matt Choi situation. That doesn't sit right with me. People being so happy about the negative outcome. People, it's almost this sector of people dancing on his grave. Same people that have gotten upset that I run 26-mile long runs and say I'm not training the right way. And it's the same thought and ideology that I'm seeing in people saying Aubrey is not a real runner because he's running certain times or approaching marathons a certain way. That doesn't sit right with me. Man, everyone has a different goal here, but what brings us all together is our enjoyment of this. So that's what I'm about. That's what this channel is about. That's what the hobby jogger lifestyle is about. Getting out here, getting after it, pursuing our goals, whatever they are. It's not about a gosh dang marathon PR. It's about putting in the work every day to get better. We have people out here putting in the work to every day to get better on the night shift who watch my videos. We have people out here waking up at 5:30 a.m. who watch my videos every day. So shout out to everyone who's putting in the work. That's what it's about. Let's bring some positivity back in here. And let's get after it. One more thing, man. This is, and I know I have to say this because people are gonna say, you defending Matt Choi, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not defending anybody except I just don't like to see anybody celebrating somebody else's mistakes or dark moments. That's gross to me. And all I'll say is I've sat on my fair share of disciplinary committees. You can guess which side of the table I was on. I was not on the side doling out the punishment. So, man, just get some miles in. Let's go.